Hello, everybody, and today we're going to be talking about a movie called Trick or Treat, and you don't want to miss it. So let's jump right into it. Today's topic is Trick or Treat, and it's one of my picks for one of the best Halloween movies to watch of all time. The reason being it takes place directly on Halloween, and we live in an age where the Halloween films themselves with Michael Myers are so twisted and warped that you have to make up your own canon to actually be able to watch them all. And I do, but that's besides the point. I try to watch all the movies that actually take place on Halloween. However, with the Michael Myers ones, I have to start early because there's just so many of them. This one is just one lonely little film, an anthology series about Halloween, very much in the same vein that you would expect from things like Tales from the Crypt or something like that. The movie itself starts off with this girl that hates Halloween. We see her wanting to take down her Halloween decorations. That is when we are introduced to Sam. And who is Sam? Well, Sam is the spirit of Halloween. And this little spirit of Halloween that we see takes the guise of a little kid in an orange suit and a bag over his head. He then proceeds to teach people the lessons of Halloween. And there are plenty of people in here who need a lesson. One story deals with a principal who is also a serial killer, played excellently by Dylan Baker, who does creepy so well. In fact, that's why he got the role. He does creepy just that well. Well, that segment is pretty good. It's a bit on the strange side because it seems like he's just your average everyday father until you start to figure out all the things he's doing, which you do rather quickly. Then they take us into a story where these little kids are gathering up pumpkins to go pay respects to some children that had died years before in a ravine. The children were driven off the ravine by a bus driver, or supposed to have been. However, that's not exactly how things went down. You see, in this section, in this story, these kids all had disabilities. They were all very disabled to the point where they needed constant care. The parents weren't getting the proper help from whatever people were out there to give them the resources to help. The parents did the unthinkable. They paid the bus driver to drive them over a ravine. The bus driver tied all the children up, chained them up, and gave them candy to keep them satisfied. Well, one of the kids kind of figures out what's happening, and the second he figures out what's happening, he pulls free from the chains and kind of pushes the bus driver a little bit and pushes on the gas, saying, "Home, home," while he drives over the ravine. So now you flash forward to current times, and these little kids have to pay respects to the dead. A pumpkin for each one of the dead. Only it turns out that it is all a ruse. They are literally trying to scare this little girl into believing that these ghosts exist. So this little girl, Rhonda, buys it hook, line, and sinker. She's scared. I won't tell you what happens in that story, but then the next story deals with this party, and these college girls are going to this party, and the one college girl has never had a boyfriend. And she's played by the same girl that played Rogue in the X-Men. and also actually played in True Blood. So, I don't know. She must be doing something wrong. Well, we find out what that something wrong is, and we also find out a little bit more about her and her friends. The section of this, the homage to this actually is this big campfire, this party, sort of bonfire party that they go to is very reminiscent of old horror movies like The Howling. It gives this vibe like everything's that dark. And that's not exactly a mistake, because everything about this section is meant to kind of play into the Little Red Riding Hood aspect of things, and that's intentional. She's dressed up like Little Red Riding Hood, so why not play into that? Then we get to move on to the old man who lives next to the principal that we met earlier, because they kind of all come back together and come around again. And this old man's kind of like the Grinch of Halloween. He doesn't like Halloween. He's not handing out candy. He's not doing anything. So, of course, Sam, the spirit of Halloween, isn't having this. And he's going to go and make sure this guy knows that that's wrong. So that happens. Now, there's a couple things to note in this movie. There's a couple John Carpenter and Stephen King references that are made throughout this movie. The number one is that the house that Rhonda has is very much made up to look like Carrie's house in the Stephen King adaptation, Carrie. And, Stephen King's book, Carrie, deals with this girl who seeks revenge on her bullies. So that might be kind of a little bit of a foreshadowing. Everything about this movie is worth paying attention to the details. The car from Christine actually also appears in this movie, and it does so in an interesting way. Christine was a movie by John Carpenter adapted from the Stephen King book. When the kids are being driven across the neighborhood and the bus getting ready to go over the ravine, we see the car sitting over on the side of the road, parked. Now, I don't know if that's supposed to be some ominous thing, but you can definitely take it as an Easter egg. And then there is the origin of Sam when you're talking about this movie, because everything comes back around, except you never get an origin from Sam. However, on the DVD, there is also included a short animated segment called Season's Greetings. And Season's Greetings was actually done by the director and writer Daughtery while he was at NYU. Season's Greetings follows a young kid, we all know, Sam, as he is trick-or-treating. He gets beat up by this guy and ultimately probably dies and becomes the spirit of Halloween. A dark little animated film. But the film was actually hand-drawn and hand-painted and animated by Daughtery himself. An old-school style of animation, all hand-done. In fact, he cut his hand while he was doing this film, and some of the blood that appears in the animation is legitimately real blood. Now, the kids that were used as the little ghost kids, as the zombie kids, all were used because they were missing limbs or had some other disfigurements. And it's said that they actually bonded during the making of the movie, which I really hope is true. I hope they made good friends with each other and stayed in touch. So the movie was actually supposed to be released in 2007, but due to a lot of difficulties and behind-the-scenes stuff, it officially didn't get put out until 2009, ended up being on DVD. at which point it did find a cult following and got the respect it deserved. If you like this video, make sure to leave a comment telling us that you like this video, and make sure that you are hitting that notification bell and subscribing to this channel. Miko thinks we need more subscribers, and I tend to think he's right. You hit that notification bell, you'll know when we do our next video. Also, make sure to share and like, because YouTube likes it when you like things. Leave a comment, because YouTube likes that too, and we like to hear from you too. So go ahead and leave a comment and talk to us. Let us know what you think. And then, at the end of the day, friends, this is your one-stop shop for all things positive in your fandom. And if that's something that appeals to you, you've come to the right place. And we're so happy to have you here. Remember, friends, at the end of the day, fandom is family.